Now I'm going to call this video Reflections. It is Monday morning and drove in Saturday night after spending some time out there in eastern New York at the cutting edge with the folks out there, but also with Greg Wade, who flew all the way out here from Oklahoma for vacation, and I proceeded to put him to work. And I'm not sure how that's going to play out over time, but I don't know if he's going to forget the fact that instead of vacation, he ended up pulling logs for Rubicon Ridge Farms. And we drove down and visited Bob down in Ashokan, New York, and got some bits and pieces to finish some projects, both for Greg's saw and my saw. The timeline went like this. Wednesday he shows up, we come here to the shop, we pick apart a saw project he brought all the way out from Oklahoma. He shipped it out. Got to the point so we understood what we needed to do to get it going. Thursday morning we drive around and visit Johnson's Motors down in Marathon and C&Y Farm Supply here in Cortland, and then come back to the shop. And the sun was out, so we jumped on a pair of tractors, went out and worked until, I don't know, 7 o'clock, just before dark. Came back here, ate some food, came back out to the shop, and put together as quickly as we could his project saw. And what that saw was, it was an X-Torque that was at the end of its time. What we did was we took it apart and put a 50 millimeter a single ring piston top end on it. I guess that's 371 early 372 top end, right? And blended the X-Torque carburetor, which has a little bit larger diameter, and put on an aftermarket muffler so it would be easy to modify downstream, which we did. Split the cases, put bearings in it, put seals in it, did the standard routine, what you do with an X-Torque, right? And got it together Thursday night. I think we pulled it over. I can't remember now, but I think we did pull it over and got it to start, but it wasn't quite there. Then Friday, we drove down to Bob's, and Bob entertained us a little bit. We got a chance to see some of central New York, and then from Bob's we drove up to Albany so he could pick up his rental car, and he had a friend from Makita, so they went and spent some time there, I suppose. And I went over to my sister-in-law's. Was pretty tired, got some sleep, woke up Saturday, and I did a little work on that saw to tune it up some at my sister-in-law's, and then went over to the cutting edge where Greg was already there, and we kind of finished off that saw, and that's where the video picks up. That would be part 2 of Greg's awesome saw adventure, and that saw ran pretty good. You know, it's funny because when we first did it, I was thinking it was a 51.4 top end because that's what I typically use. And I guess there was a 3-way discussion between me, Bob, and Greg, and he ended up with the 50 millimeter single ring version, which is actually a build that I've wanted to do for quite some time. And he had the ignition system that came off of that original 50 millimeter saw. The difference being one has a higher red line than the other. The X-Torque is like 13.3, and the original edition, even though it's limited, it's like 13.7 or something like that. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it lets it rev more. So now you had a saw that had the 50 millimeter top end to begin with a larger carburetor, a muffler mod, a little bit of compression increase, with an ignition system that lets it take advantage of its port timing. And I speculated that'd be a pretty good build, something I wanted to do. I just didn't realize I was doing it then, until we got over, started talking about it. I'm going, oh my God, that's a 50. That's not a 51.4. It says right on the top, 50. And I'm kind of curious over time as to how that works out. So we spent the day at the cutting edge, and that's one of my favorite shops. And I thought about it for a while. I'm not sure I should put this on video, but I think I'm going to because I think it's important. One of the attractions to that shop, when you first walk in that door, you're just immersed in just neat stuff, whether it's things you're interested in buying or just historical parts and stuff like that, because they have a long history of selling their brand. And it's just a cool place to be there, almost like a museum. but it is a business. But there's a couple of points that you see. Number one, you don't have to pass the gate. You know, it's not like you got to walk past the counter and feel like you have to get permission to go in there and walk around the stuff. You just walk in, it's all there. Everything that you could possibly want to see as a chainsaw geek or a customer for either tractor, chainsaw, whatever it is you're looking for, it's all right there. The counter of that store is on the side. It's not the predominant feature of the store. You know, it's not like you've got this judge and jury looking down over you as you're walking around their stuff. You know, kind of a homier and more personal kind of a thing. You can walk in, wander around, and the actual counter where you do the business is not the predominant feature of the store. And I don't know how to explain it, but that's really a difference in feel. But it's one of those things that make that place really a place you want to be. It's one of those things where it's just nice to be there. So kudos to them for building that store, building that environment, and more importantly, kudos to them to sort of inviting the whole saw community to come to those events. They have these get-togethers every year, usually late spring, early summer, and it's a spectacular event. People come from all around the country now, and they bring saws, talk about saws, and really just basically explore the hobby one step further. You know, of course, they're a Makita dealer, so at some point in time they got to sell Makita. But I just think it's a great thing they do. It's a great environment. It's a lot of fun to be there. I would basically end this little monologue by saying, should you ever be over in that part of the world and you're interested in saws at any level, the Cutting Edge in Greenwich, New York, is a place to go. Absolutely. A lot of fun. Yeah, see, this is what I should be doing instead of monkeying around with the darn saws. I think that's why my foot got stuck in the mud and I had the dull chain and all that. It's just that gentle reminder that I should be up here swinging with that track hoe. And I've got not that much more to go to get to here. And then up past the truck, we're going to put the barn. So I'm on the hill. I've already come up over the hill. The elevation change from where I am now to the road is darn near 175 feet, almost 200 feet. And so the rest of this is going to be a little bit easier to work with. And the second thing is that road I put in there, I think has dried things out. But either way, I'm going to put a little bit of track hoe time in and I'll work from there.
What I got here is a Makita EA4300F, okay? And this is on loan from the Cutting Edge, although I think I'm going to buy it. And what it is, it's a light little saw. It's about 10 pounds empty, maybe 10 and a half. And it's got decent power, but it looks to me like, since it's a conventional, what we'd consider a pro level build with a split magnesium cases, this looks to me like a candidate for a little bit of hot rodding. You know, nothing significant. Muffler mod, no base gasket build, something along those lines. You know something, right now it runs pretty good just the way it is. It starts easy, you know, and in the kind of work that I'm going to be doing, it's not about horsepower. It's about lightweight and cutting good enough and being able to easily start and restart. That's a whole lot more important than a lot of horsepower. And so let's just see how easy it is to restart. So that's what this saw is about, is that, for me. You know, that being lightweight, so you're crawling around by a fence or in a ditch like we just did. You know, nice little saw. Looks nice. I like the color and I like the way it looks. You know. Put my glasses on and see if it's made in Germany. Well, actually it says made in China. This is a Chinese saw. So I don't know what to tell you. Nice little saw. Here we have a Chinese built saw that's being sold by Makita, who bought Dolmar, which was a famous German company. But I like it. I like the way it runs. It's a nice little saw. No matter where it's made. And again, I'm probably the last person on the planet who should say anything about Chinese built chainsaws, huh? So we're going to put some time on it. You know, and I'm going to try a different bar and chain. I think I'll do a muffler mod, and I think I'll do a couple other things. But tell you what, the quality of that's not bad. You know, even though it says made in China, the fit and finish of that little saw looks pretty good. So it's my first impression. I was over there cutting brush with it. It worked quite well in the brush. A lot of that has to do with the chain, though. That 3/8, you know, that really low profile 3/8 it's got on there. I hope you didn't expect it to stay clean. It
already got a couple tanks through it. Been bounced around the back of the pickup truck and in the tractor. And this is that small 43cc Makita. Targets of opportunity. So let's start it up. Get rid of, I don't have my chaps and all that, so you're going to have to yell at me about safety equipment. I just simply don't have them in the vehicle. Well, I do have ear protection, and I do have eye protection, and I do have a chainsaw. So we're almost there. First things first, let's see how easy it is to start. Flip it up to choke. Choke off. Okay, basically you just push that button down until it stops, but when that button releases, it's back to being on. So let's see how easy it is to restart. I like it. So again, nice little saw. I don't care how you cut it, this is a nice little saw. Now coming off the hill from the excavator, I have this thing in there. So that's a Husqvarna 543, and I just want to run it so you can see something that's representative of that same displacement class. The little Makita was, and this is a Husqvarna. It's made in Japan. It was, I don't know, from the Red Max line and put in different plastic for Husqvarna. Both of those saws come from the Pacific Rim, some form. But this is a very well built little saw. It'll last a very, very long time. It may not be a powerhouse, but it has sort of a quality feel to it. The fit, finish, the material. It's got aluminum bar versus plastic, you know. And it's just a very nice little saw. And since it has the XP nomenclature, the XP label, Husqvarna considers this a pro saw for like an arborist or a landscaper or something like that. The idea being that it lasts a very long time. It's a high quality little saw. Before we run completely out of light, I'm going to pull that Makita out again and see whether or not it fires up easy and does one more test cut. Okay, well, I think it has a little more strength. I think it's a little more powerful, but it's also a little bit heavier. The Husqvarna is quite a bit lighter. They restart about the same. Both of them are pretty easy to both start and restart. They both have the primer bulb, but I don't know. I like them both. But this one here definitely has a little bit more power, and I think the time's going to bear that out. And the only downside of this saw versus the 543 is this one here feels like it's a little bit heavier. But at this displacement class, and it doesn't really matter. They're both pretty lightweight saws. And the fit and finish on this is pretty nice as well, but I think the Husqvarna has a little bit better fit and finish. Does it really matter? I don't think so. Both nice little saws, a little bit more power. A little bit less weight. So I guess that would be the deciding factor, what you want, power or weight. This one here vibrates zero. There's no vibration whatsoever. And the Makita doesn't have a lot of vibration either. Both of them are pretty smooth saws. Both these saws are nice. I don't think you'd go wrong with either one of them. So that's my wife's saw. I think this little Makita is going to end up in the excavator for me. You know, it'll be my little truck saw. Actually, it's going to be my tractor saw for the farm. So it's going to probably sit in one of the tractors or the excavator. The electric saw, the battery powered saw, sits in the truck because it doesn't weep oil or gas. These do, so that relegates them to farm and tractor service. Alright, I just ran the little Makita and the Husqvarna 543. I ran them back to back in the same log. It felt to me like the Makita had a little more horsepower. It also felt to me that the Makita had a little bit more weight. So both those saws ran well. The Makita definitely felt stronger to me. Part of its chain, maybe, but both those chains have roughly the same amount of time. The Makita is going to find a place in the farm somewhere while I have it. Probably in the excavator or the big International. And I think I'm going to retire the 455 John thread for a little while and just run the Makita in that farm service. My general impression is this. The Makita is built in China. It's made in China in a Makita factory, and they've done a good job with fit and finish from what I can tell. It looks like a nice little saw. We're going to tear it down and look at the muffler, and we're going to probably do a no base gasket build, just the kind of things that people do, see if we can make it run a little snappier. My hunch is that won't be hard to do. And it versus the other brands, I really think it boils down to the location of the dealer. I mean, if you got a good dealer like the Cutting Edge, you buy that saw over the Husqvarna, over the steel. If you have a dealer like Bob down there in Ashokan Turf and Timber, you buy the Husqvarna. The 543, I don't think it has the same power, but it's definitely much lighter and has a really good fit and finish. You know, it's a saw built to last, but the price point is quite a bit more unless the dealer puts them on sale for you. I think it definitely has more horsepower than the 440 we used to have, but it should. It's got more displacement. Now, I believe that's a new chassis for them, and it's built in China. I think I mentioned that, and it shouldn't matter because it's a Makita manufacturing facility and they control the quality there. It doesn't really matter where they build it because they have their own standards. That matters, it really does. So whether it's built in China or Sweden or Germany or Japan, as long as it's a Makita factory and they're the ones in charge of the manufacturing tolerances, you're going to end up with a product as designed. That's the point. And I think that 4300 there is case in point. It's a nice little saw. So that's my first impression.